All right, and then we have to create this docker-compose.yml file. Okay, so this docker-compose.yml file will actually run the front end, back end, and the database together. Okay, so let's copy this whole thing and go back. And you know what, we don't want to create this docker-compose.yml inside the, neither it will go inside the backend nor it will go inside the front end. So it has to go to the root directory. Okay, just click on this Django clickmart underscore and click on new file, and you say docker-compose.yml, docker-compose.yml. Okay, so let's I'll just copy this again. I'll put it here. Okay, I'll just try to explain this one now. See, for the, as a service, we are using the database as a DB service. Okay, so it will use the image Postgres 16 Alpine. If you go here and search for Postgres, right, you see this Postgres, and 16 Alpine is one of the stable version. Okay, so here you can see this one 16 Alpine. Okay, so we will use the 16 Alpine for our Docker Compose. Okay, and then we have to create this environment file .env.production, or if you want to just rename it to something else like .env dot Postgres or something. Okay, you can do this also. Okay, so we have to create this file, and we will just go to this backend DRF. We'll just create a new file and say .env dot Postgres or .env dot production. Okay, name doesn't matter. All right, so I'll explain you what exactly this means. And you see, we also have to create the .env.docker. Okay, so I will tell you why, but we'll quickly create this .env.docker. Okay, so we have created two files here, .env.production and .env.docker, and we'll go back to this docker compose.yml. So here we are creating the database. Okay, so we are creating the database, and what database to create, we have to mention it here. Okay, what database to create, we have to mention it here. So do we have the, yeah, here you can see in the for creating this .env production, I will just copy these two things, these three things: db name, db user, db password. I'll just copy and paste it here. Okay, so db name, db user, and db password. So I'll just say clickmart deploy db. Okay, clickmart deploy db, and this is your Postgres user and the password. Okay, you have to put your password. I'll put this password. Using this username and password, Docker will create the new database. Okay, so I'll just save it. And in the backend, if you see, so in the backend we have built this backend project, and the port will be 8000, and env file, this is for the database, so .env.docker. so this is the copy of this .env. Okay, this .env.docker is the copy of .env. Okay, whatever it is here you will just copy this and go to this .env.docker and put it here. Okay, now in the database settings, you have to actually remove this. Okay, you have to remove this, add this same database .env. So in the using this .env.production, this database will be created, and using this .env.docker, this database will be connected. Okay, so that's why just create this database and put it here. The DB user is same, and the password will be same, and the DB host, and make sure you, if if you're not using 5432 in the local, but in Docker by default 5432 strictly. Okay, so you have to use this 5432 in the .env.docker. So the Docker will take this environment variables and build your backend. Okay. Okay, so I have just renamed it to something else, right? Production.env.production.env.docker. Okay, and then it depends on DB. DB is a service. Okay, like this, and the purpose of this Docker Compose is to run these three services: database service, and backend service, and front end service. Okay, and you see for the front end also, you can see. Okay, just before that, I just want to show you this one, volumes. You see this for all the static folders. Okay, for all the static static files, CSS, JavaScript, images, and all, it will go to Docker's app and static folder. Okay, and for the backend media directory will go to app media. Okay, so these are the volumes means the storage places. Okay, and then we run this command, python manage.py collect static and python manage.py migrate, and then we run the server. So this will be the local server. Okay, and to run these commands, you have to make sure that you have the static files set up correctly in the settings.py. You have to make sure that static root and the static files dirs is configured. Okay, and you also need to have the static folder here. Okay, currently we don't have any static folder. Let's create one empty folder. In this project we don't have any static folder right now, but in almost all the projects there will be static folder. Okay, so let's close it, and this will run the server. This will run the backend, and the front end will be like the context is front end, which means the path of the front end, and then it is taking the arguments with server base URL, which will be like this backend. So this will automatically resolve inside the Docker. Okay, so you don't have to explicitly say 127.0 something like that. You just say docker :8000, so it will work. And then ports 5173:80. So 5173 is the default development server port number for the Wheat projects, and 80 is the default HTTP port for the websites. And then we have this volumes Postgres_data. So this is actually this will create the Docker volume to permanently store the Postgres data. Okay, without this your database data is stored inside the container. So if the container is deleted, your data is lost. Okay, so that's why with this one we will just store, your data is stored in a Docker managed volume, and your data persists even if the container stops or restarts. Okay, so that's what this Docker Compose does. So overall, it will create the database, and it will then build the backend, it will build the front end, and it will store the data. Okay, what next? Once this is done, we will run the we will run this docker compose command. This command will actually dockerize your project on your local computer. We are still dockerizing the project on local server. Okay, I mean local computer. Okay, so let's just copy this docker compose up. What you have to do, you can just stop the server if it's working, doesn't matter. um, just make sure you're here with the same level as docker compose.yml and run this docker compose up. Okay, and make sure all these files are saved. Save it. Let's see, docker compose up hyphen build. Okay, we got some error. mm, .env production. Okay, not found. So uh, so the thing is our path is little wrong. Let's it's actually looking for looking inside this, I mean this path, but our .env production is inside here, right? Just like this. Okay, just add like this. So let's try again. Okay, now it looks like it's building our services. Okay, so we are getting this error, invalid tag Django clickmart underscore hyphen backend, invalid reference format. So this is actually telling us to remove this underscore, because this in Docker this is considered as invalid. Okay, all right, so it was there in the GitHub, right? So that's why it is here. We will remove this. We'll just remove this, I mean we'll just remove that underscore. Okay, but we just want to see if it exists somewhere here. I don't think it is existed somewhere. So we just have to remove this underscore from this main directory. Okay, so and then hopefully it will work. Yeah, okay, looks like it's working. Actually your code is actually dockerizing your project, right? So okay, we got this error 5432 is failed. That's because we did one more mistake here. Okay, so what is this mistake is we in the host, right? In the host, in this .env docker, the host should be set to db service. Okay, so this, just write this db. You see this one, right? This db should go here. Okay, so it should not be localhost. Yeah, you can see here, right? It should be db. I forgot to do it. I just kept it like kept it as localhost. That's why it is showing the error. No, it is just trying to connect the local 5432, which in my case is stopped. Okay, but even if it is running in your computer with this localhost in .env.docker, just change that to just change that to db. Okay, let's try again. So of course, when making the deployment, the errors are very common. Okay, so I'll just come back and say Django clickmart. uh, okay, so I'll say docker compose up hyphen build. Let's try again. Okay, so we are getting this error again. It says could not translate the hostname DB to address. So what's happening here is that Docker is unable to create the database, and this is correct. Okay, so of course this must be correct, but this DB does not exist. Why? Because Docker is unable to create this database with the clickmart deploy DB. Why? Is because I mean, Docker expects Postgres underscore DB, not this DB underscore name. So this is actually the environment name, which is the custom names. Okay, so I mistakenly named it like this. It should be, it should be like Postgres underscore DB. Okay, it should be Postgres underscore DB, and this should be Postgres underscore user. Okay, Postgres underscore user, and this should be Postgres underscore password. Okay, so that's the reason we are getting this unable to I mean could not translate host name DB. Okay, so make sure you have this set up correctly. Okay, so let's try again. We got some a lot of errors now. Let's see. Let's do this docker compose down hyphen v. Okay, so let's rebuild it. Docker compose build hyphen hyphen build. Hopefully this should work now. Okay, so if you can see here what's happening, the first thing is your server is running. Okay, backend server is running, and you see you can see it was able to migrate the database, right? So now your project is dockerized. Okay, now to see the health of your docker container, you can simply run this docker compose ps. Okay, just run the new new terminal and just say docker compose ps. Okay, so I'll have to go inside the cd docker Django clickmart, right? Then I run this docker compose ps, and you see status is up up up, right? So this is up up up. All right, so what is this up? So this is actually your backend, and this is your database, and this is your front end. So all of these containers are up. Okay, so now what we'll do, we'll go to 127 admin. You can see it is working, right? So this is our local server, this is stopped, and this is our local front end, this is also stopped, and this is our docker, right? So it is running. Okay, so you refresh, and let's run the localhost 5173. We are getting the error here, failed to load products, please check your connection. That must, there must be little bit a path change here somewhere. Let's see what happened here. Go to inspect and console. Okay, so what's happening here? So our front end is trying to access this backend, so it is not resolving. Why this is not resolving is because this backend service name, so this is actually the service name, right? Which if you go here, you can see this is the service name backend. So we are using this one, right? So this will only work inside the Docker, not on the browser. So I'll have to say 127.0.0.1, save it, and whenever you make any changes to your Docker, what you have to do, you have to run docker compose down. Okay, so let's stop the server using Control C. I'll say docker compose down, and everything is removed now. So I'll again say docker compose up hyphen build. Okay, so now let's refresh this. Okay, so there's no products, of course, because this is the new database, right?